Hello, everybody. This is Khatt Chronicles. My name is Huda AbiFarès, and I have with me today the team that will be conducting the interviews of our next third season of this podcast series by the Khatt Foundation. The season 3 of Khatt Chronicles will continue on being produced in collaboration with the wonderful team of Afikra. We thought to use this episode to introduce you to some of the topics and directions we are thinking of incorporating in our series. I will be moderating this podcast, and so first let me introduce and welcome my guests. We have with us Yasmine Nachabe Taan. She's Associate Professor of Art and Design at the Lebanese American University, LAU, in Beirut. She is also the Director of the Institute of Art in the Arab World at LAU. She is a member of the Executive Board of the Khatt Foundation. Yara Khoury Nammour. She is a graphic designer and type designer and educator. She is currently a practice-based researcher and assistant professor of design at the American University of Beirut, AUB. She heads the Arabic type research unit at AUB. She is also a member of the executive board of the Khatt Foundation. Then we have also Fawzi Rahal. He is a designer by education, a passionate nerd. He is a tech fund manager who works closely with startup founders in the Middle East, advising them on product, market, and user journey. He is also a member of the executive board of the Khatt Foundation. So am I, by the way. And last but not least, we have a new member of the Khatt Chronicles team with us, Roshanak Keyghobadi. Roshanak teaches art and design, as well as global art and graphic design histories at the Visual Communication Department at the State University of New York at Farmingdale. She holds a doctorate degree in art and art education from Columbia University, writes regularly about contemporary art and design. Her work has been exhibited in museums and galleries nationally and internationally and featured in various magazines. At present time, Roshanak is engaged in an extensive research, archiving, and writing about the works of Iranian women in graphic design. She is also our newest member of the advisory board of the Khatt Foundation. So welcome, everybody. I'm very happy to have you with us tonight, and we're going to take this episode to introduce you to some of the ideas we have we're working on and we're planning for the third season of Khatt Chronicles. So let's start this conversation. My first question is for Roshanak. Considering that half of the Khatt Foundation members are from Iran, we thought it would be great to start introducing Iranian designers in our series and not just focusing on Arab designers. So my question to you, Roshanak, would be how important is it to introduce Iranian graphic design, especially the work of women, to the Khatt Foundation or to the Khatt Chronicles audience?
Hello, everyone. Thank you, Huda. I would like to thank all of you for inviting me to be part of this wonderful group. I've been following Khatt Foundation for a long time, been a member of it, and followed your contributions to the field of graphic design in the region. To answer your question, I think it is very important to introduce and discuss works of Iranian women graphic designers in Iran because we are opening up a conversation, a global conversation, and adding new voices to this conversation and dialogue and expanding the canon professionally and pedagogically in this field. In fact, I became interested in research about Iranian women in graphic design after you invited me to the conference Revealing Recording, Reflecting in 2022. Which the focus of it was women graphic designers from Southwest Asia and North Africa. When I started that research, I gradually started to realize that there's a lack of documentation of Iranian women graphic designers' works and their names. That's why their names are faded in the history of graphic design globally and also locally in Iran. So I started collecting data and do my research, and also I found a platform, the People's Graphic Design Archives, that provided me to collect the data and share it with everyone. And all the information is both in Persian and English. So it is a vehicle for research for not only people who speak English, but also anyone who speaks Persian, and especially targeting students and researchers in the field. So far, I have covered 50 Iranian women graphic designers, and it's growing. Very soon, I'll be introducing another 50, and I'm very excited to contribute to this episode, to this season. My episodes and interviews will be basically with Iranian women graphic designers in the field of design education, branding, women graphic designers who are part of the design organizations in Iran, as well as Iranian women graphic designers in diaspora, and what is their contributions to the field.
Thank you. Thank you, Roshanak. That was very good introduction. We're looking forward to listening to these conversations and also to getting to know your guests. Thank you. My second question is going to be to Yasmine. Yasmine, it's really interesting that you're also interested also in doing research on women artists, illustrators, and graphic designers. You've done that and you've published quite publications on this topic, and I know that this is an ongoing interest of yours. Would you be bringing this kind of interest to the episodes you are going to propose for this new season? And can you tell us a little bit more about it?
Yes, sure. Definitely. Thank you. First, hi, Huda. Hi, everyone. Yes, I have been lately interested in female designers that we are calling graphic women. And yes, I have several plans of continuing the publication of about the production, graphic design production of women in the region, in the Arab region. So part of this interest is a project that we worked together that was led by Huda, that is the revealing, recording, reflecting on women designers in the Suwana region. And part of this was several panels that we had organized where we reached out to women in the region speaking about their creative work in design. Another work that I am interested in is publishing about these women. And we have several books that are part of the Khatt series on female designers, such as Salwa Rawda in Lebanon and Muna Basili Sahnawi. A book that just came out. I want to add one thing about the podcast, that is, I believe that these podcasts are so interesting and so important to the region because designers are invisible. They don't sign their work. And these podcasts somehow allows us to speak about work that sometimes we didn't know that this designer has produced this logo or this book, and we invite the designer in a podcast, and then we find out that this designer had worked on work that was not known by the people. And so I think that this is really interesting. And usually the wider public is not aware of the challenges that the designer goes through in producing the work. So this is a platform. The Khatt Chronicles is a platform where designers can share their experiences and the challenges that they face. I also think that this is an opportunity for us to reach out to designers in the diaspora. So these designers are spread out around the world. And it is, for me, being in Beirut, an opportunity to reach out and have a discussion with designers in, you name it, Egypt, Kuwait, even a designer in the US who is practicing working on Arabic typography or illustrations. I also want to add that I am using these Khatt Chronicles in my class in teaching the history of graphic design. And this is where my students are so eager to learn about designers in the region. And so it is adding another layer to the class that is interesting. And I am also trying to link it to an assignment in class and have a discussion afterward, which I think is really interesting. So I use these as an opening to, address different issues in design. Now, going back to women in design, I believe that there is a very interesting, young, a very vital, growing group of women that are really very active and using their voices to somehow express concerns, social concerns, mainly social and cultural concerns through the design that they're producing. By design, I am also talking about illustrations. So most of them, the ones that I will be hopefully conducting interviews and podcasts with, will be illustrators, female illustrators in the region. These women mostly express loudly their concerns about injustices, achieving gender equality, empowering women and girls. They also have concerns about avoiding gender and racial discrimination. Women are victims of violence. They are denied basic rights even today, not only in the Arab world, but across the Arab world as well. And so there's a lot to discuss through the visual production of these women. They are underrepresented politically and economically, and in the decision-making process as well. And so I hope that we are going to be discussing all these issues and how this is somehow revealed in their work. Thank you.
Thank you very much for this wonderful explanation, and also kind of contextualizing the chronicles and the podcasts. And I think that also it's interesting, we're focusing a bit on women this time around, but I think that's also maybe necessary. But also the way you explain it, I think we probably were going to find that some of the themes that you will discuss in one context will also apply to another context and even with another practitioner. So I'm looking forward to see also how these topics overlap as we develop our conversations. I want to also just now switch to the question to Yara and talk about, and maybe you can, Yara, extend your ideas about, different topics in type design or in typography, since this is your research and your focus in your work. But maybe, also not necessarily it's just about technical aspects, but also maybe there's a cultural dimension that you might like to talk about, or, the type of people you're considering, and whatever you feel like talking about.
Hello, everybody. This season will bring in also women in type, also women in animating type, women in lettering, women in graphic design that use typography, women that do type design also, women that archive also typography that is all around us, that is contextual, that is in places that we see every day, but we do not put in context and see the impact it has on us throughout the years. So this is very exciting for me to bring on people like Yasmine Sarkis, who started doing a lot of lettering and then went into graphic design also, and started introducing that lettering into the commercial work that she's doing, not only in the brands that she's doing. So, for example, we will find in the Khatt Chronicles, the season 3, people women like Samar Makaroon that just joined Pentagram. And this is a big honor for all of us, the first Arab and a woman to join a very big and important design agency, an international design agency. And that is for her knowledge of the script, the language, and getting into animating the type and into branding.
Thank you for the introduction. I think it's nice that you mentioned a couple of people, but the direction also is very clear. I'm very curious to see, it's nice to see that everyone so far has a kind of different focus and some connections between them. I don't want it to make it sound like the whole season 3 will be about women, although a lot of the guests will be women, because in the past we've done more men. So I think we're just trying to, balance things out. I also want to just give the floor to Fawzi to kind of tell us about, his direction. Fawzi is, of course, a tech nerd, and so he's going to be looking at technological designers. I wouldn't say women designers only, but maybe you want to talk about your
Hopefully some of them will be women, Huda.
Yeah, hopefully.
The aim is to try to get as many women as possible as part of the theme of the season. So as you mentioned, I work with a lot of startups today that create tools that are more or less essential for the workforce that we live in. And more, the full screen is becoming ubiquitous, not just with the hands of the literate and the educated, but also with the hands of blue collar workers who need to check into their work, to like look at particular trainings and do lots of day-to-day experiences that everybody else do, such as banking, paying their phone bills, or working at a construction site. And knowing and taking that into consideration, I'm excited about interviewing some people that will be developing tools that blue collar workers and people that are not very literate are actually using, trying to see what kind of universal language or symbols they're utilizing in order to efficiently deliver a particular transaction or a process or an actual direction within any kind of process. And in addition to this, I'm also going to be looking at some startups that are actually working in the design field. So knowing that today we're not only using Photoshop and Illustrator to do our day-to-day designs, there are a lot of social media managers and community managers that are out there in the field that on the spot from their phones or iPads need to get something up and online. And with that happening and with that direction going on, there are a lot of interesting new tools that are coming out, particularly in Arabic and focusing on the Arabic and right to left field that empower designers on the go with these interesting templates and samples and processes that kind of efficiently deliver on new ways by which we do the old ways of design. I'm also going to be looking at or trying to interview some people that work in the non-traditional design field. So we're not just going to be looking at still work. We're going to be looking at interactive and moving projections of different art scenes. And with that in mind, again, as I said, we're going to be trying to focus as much as possible on featuring as many women designers within this field as possible.
I think that within your interests, I mean, I want to expand on your idea that, you always work with startups and there's a kind of like creativity and the idea of what kind of company and how to deal with new media and what is relevant to the region. Would you be kind of talking to some of the people maybe that have already worked, that you've already worked with, that you're familiar with their business in a way, or their design business? Is that some
Yeah,
of
I'm
the
going to
people
try to
on
bring
your
in a lot
list?
of the founders that are working today in building these apps, and then look at the challenges that they face.
Yeah.
I'm going to look at the common solutions that they've all come up with in order to try to, learn a little bit more about, what are the new ways by which we're talking to people, communicating with them without using letters on, dynamic screens that require efficient and direct, actions and direction.
Yeah, like recently I discovered that one designer that I've been featuring in my latest exhibition he sent me an email saying, well, why don't you show my dynamic posters? And that was very interesting, like a different approach. So it's animated posters and they're really gorgeous. His work is gorgeous in print, but in animation it's even more amazing. So it's interesting to also consider like new ways of what you said is interesting to look at the crossover when people use the kind of traditional medium and transform it into a technological medium that makes more sense within this time and age. So I'm very looking forward to the people you talk to and to these episodes actually. Yeah, for my part, I think I want to also extend a little bit the field of maybe not so much I'm not focusing on women designers per se, but I want to expand more into bringing in also a new group of people that normally are kind of alienated from our field, which are calligraphers, and in particular calligraphers that work in a more, I want to say, graphic way or more innovative way. So I have that in mind as something that is a good extension to bring into the conversation because we learn a lot from them. And we always think of calligraphy, especially in our world, as a sort of separate. It is a kind of separate world, but it's a very traditional world. But there's also a lot of work that's been done that's contemporary, that's very interesting, that bridges the graphic quality of the Arabic script. So I want to include that a little bit in our conversations. And also, of course, I'm a nerd like Fawzi, but then a book nerd. I love books. So I want to expand a little bit more on talking with about books, published books, books we've published, maybe books other people published. So expand a little bit this conversation and make people aware of existing books that are related to the field that might be also useful. So I think it's also good that the conversations in Khatt Chronicles expand our knowledge and our research, and also make it available to a lot of people in ways that, published books cannot compete with. So I am also making my list of people still, but the list is long and I want to make sure I don't go overboard. Another thing that I find really fascinating that's been happening a lot lately, I mean, it's been happening over the past few years, is that people are kind of also using the online platform to create these archives, or to create these platforms where people collect material, share material, have conversations. And so I want to invite also a couple of these people that have started these kind of initiatives to talk about their work. So not just necessarily designers that make things, but designers that facilitate a platform for others to show what they make. So kind of like our competitors in some ways, but I don't see it as such. I think it's more like a ecology of different people working in different ways, but in similar ways. And I think it's good that we connect together. I have just a final question for all of you that maybe we can end this episode with is, what do you think is most lacking in design discourse in the region today? And what can we do? Do you think what we are doing so far is good? Should we, what do we need to do to address that or to help in some ways?
I'm picking on a lot of your conversation, and I think complementarity is very important. And I feel that we don't connect all of what we're doing together. The archivist stays in the archiving platform, the calligrapher stays in what they do, the graphic designer stays, and then the lettering artist, and then the type designer. And there's not enough complementarity, I feel. And this platform should start connecting the dots in our heads when we hear these podcasts, when we read these books. And this is where the story should start to connect, I think. Another point I feel that I would like to comment on is that I've been teaching for the past 28 years now. And the scene of women has the gender scene in the classroom has changed tremendously. And the women are on the rise tremendously. I have 42 students in one class this year, one male person or two, I think. So it is only normal that the new female generation is actually rising and coming into fruition and seeing the light, and we're talking about their work. It is only a natural result that we actually start hosting these women, because they actually are the biggest percentage of designers, makers, researchers, archivists, you name it.
I also wanted to add, I totally agree with Yara. There is this need for kind of like a cross-platform collaboration, cross-cultural connection. So all of these fields are connected together. There shouldn't be this kind of disconnect. And I think through research, we can bind all of these together, kind of like weave them together. It's a like big tapestry of design that each of us are adding to it. So I think it is very empowering to do this kind of collaborations and investigations. So I think that's what's lacking really at this point, because everyone's kind of like individually engaged in their own practice. But just realizing through education and maybe us as educators teaching our students that there is this interconnectivity between all of these fields of design, and it's all about making, imagination, and really experimenting with ideas and exchanging these ideas with everyone.
Yeah, I agree. I think it's really important to kind of show that ecology, what is happening where and where are overlaps, because I think it's also sometimes people are so focused and are stressed with work and, deadlines, and they're focused on what they do. They forget that, they forget or they don't have time to look for what is going on somewhere else. And I think it's good to have the possibility in these conversations to bring out these connections, to make people aware that there's other things happening somewhere else that they can learn from and be inspired from. You know, they don't have to be complementary. They could also be doing the same thing, but then in two different parts and not aware of it. And I think that's also nice to kind of try to make it available for people to have the possibility to maybe collaborate if they want to, but at least be aware of each other. Yasmine, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I was also thinking about extending it to collaborations across disciplines, but beyond design, that is, I don't know, in a way promoting interdisciplinarity with and I'm thinking about, design and psychology, design and sociology, design and, education, technology, not just, design related issues. I was also thinking about this ongoing discourse of cultural preservation and contemporary expression. So this also should continue, should never stop, So how are we looking into preserving our culture, but at the same time moving forward in producing design that is contemporary?
Fawzi, you want to add something?
Yeah, adding on to what everybody had just contributed with. I think there could be benefit from creating a little bit of a repository of open source tools and knowledge that can start bringing these people together from all these disciplines and platforms. I think it's easier to lure them with useful content and informational tools to get them started before or get them going into crossing into the other disciplines or understanding the need or different ways by which they can approach design or architecture or any kind of, particular discipline within design itself.
You think technology is kind of a natural place for these kind of overlaps? I mean, for example, when
in
I
some
think
ways,
of
yes.
in
some ways, yes. In others, I think there's going to be a little bit of a need of human intervention. I mean, I am a nerd, but I don't believe the technology is a solution to everything out there. But I am a believer that we can definitely utilize the Khatt platform and a little bit more technology to leverage on bringing everybody together.
I think that this is really great. I don't think we should have a very, very long session. I think this is a really good introduction it also gives us a kind of like roadmap for what we're going to do. And then the next step is to actually start doing it. So hopefully we will start soon. We will have another interesting season to add to our Khatt Chronicles podcast. So thank you very much. It was really lovely to have you all. It was, if you have one final thought you want to share with everyone, this is your last moment to do it. Otherwise, we just say thank you. And until next time we listen to your podcast and hear your comments and hear your guests speak about their ideas.
We're excited. That's what we want to say. We're excited and we can't wait to start.
I agree.
If you're not a subscriber, now is your chance to follow this podcast.
We are always open to comments. So if you have ideas as listeners, please do send us an email. You can reach us through the Khatt Foundation email or through any which one of us, each one individually. And we'd be happy to listen to your thoughts and comments and suggestions. So thank you, everybody, and until we meet again.